Hello, everybody. For the land acknowledgement, I would like to, first of all, show you this tapestry from the Tevanga to today, stories of the Tongva people. The land acknowledgement statement states, with great respect, Cal State LA acknowledges the Tongva people as the traditional caretakers of Tovangar, the Tongva world, including the Los Angeles Basin, South Channel Islands, San Gabriel, and Pomona Valley, and portions of Orange, San Bernardino, and Riverside counties. Cal State LA is located within these lands. As an institution located on an unceded Tongva land, we pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and our relatives, relations, past, present, and emerging. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Cal State LA more accountable to the needs of American people. And this was prepared by Dr. Kimberly Robertson and Tongva Elder Julia Bogani. I would like to now introduce Dr. Lani Cupchoy, who will give a dedication.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Munoz. I appreciate it. So for today's dedication, we will be drawing from Inlakech, and it's a Mayan precept referring to the living code of the heart. And it was selected for today's symposium to serve as a reminder that we are all part of the same universal vibration, and that during this unprecedented time, it is important for us to draw on the strength of each other and our community. And so that being said, I'd like to say it. It's in Spanish and English. If you know it, you could definitely do it with me. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself. And now I'd like to introduce my seed scholar for this course, Cindy Chen.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Big Data Freshman Symposium. I am Cindy Chen, a former seed scholar from summer 2020, resource mentor for Dr. Cupchoy's NSS 1001 course, and a GIS tech for the Spring Big Data program. For my seed scholar internship over the summer, I worked with City Plants, and they are a tree planting nonprofit in Los Angeles. And through that program, I have learned a lot about how big data is critical in tree planting, along with the policies and rules that come with it. I realized there's so much data that can be used to make informed decisions that will be used to help the community. And then for now, I'd like to introduce Dean Scott Johnson, saying a few remarks about the grant.
Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Dennis, for putting together the symposium and working with Preston Mills for bringing this opportunity to us. So yes, everybody should give them a round of applause. Second of all, I want to acknowledge the hard work of the faculty and show my appreciation for their work and the integration. Not only did we work with Kimmy, who is part of our evaluation team for NSS 1000, Dr. Kaveri Subramaniam, who's working on this project, but I'd also like to acknowledge the faculty colleagues with whom this grant was structured. And that is Dr. Haley Ye, who's an associate dean, as well as Dr. Renee Volanowitz. So I just want to acknowledge the folks who helped us and show my appreciation for all of you who are participating in what we consider a great vision. You know, I have come to respect the fact that there are so many ways in which we can be a voice for our communities. And it's often been part of my own vision and my heart to find ways to give each of you as faculty and students the voices to make a difference in your community, not just when you graduate, but as part of your matriculation here at Cal State LA. This grant gives us an opportunity to do that in ways that we could not have imagined. And I'm so appreciative for your taking this on, for the faculty taking this on, embedding these principles, and you're working with us in doing that. I'm just thrilled to hear what you're going to do. But more importantly, I'm thrilled that you're being who we have supported, we have set out to support. I love what you said, Dr. Cupchoy. There's an African proverb that says, I am because you are because I am. And this opportunity gives us a chance to be the we in the world and to help strengthen that voice. I want to also just acknowledge the partnership with the City of Los Angeles and with community partners and our colleagues in each of those units. This is really an exciting time. This will give you an opportunity to start to think about the skills and experiences that you want as an integrated way of matriculating through our institution. Yes, we have lots of things planned for you, but more importantly, our goal is to create change agents in the world, and you will need the skills that best fit your voice. This is just a start of that. So thank you, students, for the great work that you've done. Thank you, colleagues, for your leadership and your partnership. Thank you, colleagues outside of the university. I just am looking forward to being with you today. And I'm going to now turn it back over to Dr. Dennis, but I think that she has Dr. Ye as saying a few words. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ye. Thank you.
I didn't know I had to speak. But anyway, it's just so glad to meet you all and some familiar faces of CSULA scholars and our partners and the wonderful faculties. Just I say welcome, and I'm so grateful for everything you do. Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move right into our program now with Professor Branter. Please, Genesis, introduce the class.
Hi, my name is Genesis Dominguez. I'm the seed scholar that helped out Professor Branter's class. As we all know, data is very important, in particular visual data, because it lets us look at data not as numbers and letters, but as something concrete that might let us see things we otherwise would have missed. Visual data let us see patterns. This is exactly what Eric and Melissa managed to do with the data that was collected by the survey. They managed to analyze the data and pick up on discrepancies in the answers that people gave about how well they know the US justice system and the sentiments about the juvenile prison system. With the data that they will present today, we hope to educate people on the juvenile prison system. That way people can make more educated choices when picking someone for office or even when they're voting on particular propositions or laws.
Thank you, Genesis. Hi, everybody. I'm Summer Branter, Professor Summer Branter, to my students. I had such a pleasure working with them this year. Freshmen are amazing, and my class did an excellent job. I'm so proud of them. When they came into this class, it was kind of a whirlwind, and they didn't know what to expect, and they were really in for a treat, I think. But let me back up to give you what inspired our survey. So right now, the current situation with prisons, by the way, I work for Project Rebound on campus, and if you don't know what that is, we serve formerly incarcerated students. Many of them are ex-lifers. And so this is what inspired our survey. So right now, there's about 2.2 million people in prison in the nation, and that's by far more than any country in the world. And we've seen the number of people incarcerated in the US grow by 500% over the last 30 years. That's huge. My students were shocked by this. If you think of China, its population is 4 times the US, and the US has 5% of the world's inhabitants, but 25% of the world's prison population. So that gives you an idea of how big data can be very impressive. But bringing it to the actual personal connection we had a visitor, one of our members, named Daniel, came in to speak to our class and to talk about the concept of juvenile life without the possibility of parole. And I think the students were shocked to find out that this was a thing. In the 1990s, as many of you might remember, there was an uptick in violent crime and just crime in general. And you saw a lot of people worried about this concept of a super predator, this myth that, you know, there was going to be unremorseful teenagers terrorizing the neighborhood and can never be rehabilitated. This is where you start to see a lot of juvenile lifers ending up, a lot of juveniles serving life without the possibility of parole. Just to give you a quick snapshot of that before I turn it over to my students, 2,500 people in the US are currently serving life in prison without the possibility of parole that are for crimes committed under the age of 18. Racial disparities occur there too, just like across the board. And research over the last 2 decades, however, has made it increasingly clear that the brains of adolescents, and particularly their frontal lobes, may still be developing. And this is where many people have been able to get their sentences shortened. But they have to meet like something like 18 different criteria in order to even have their sentence looked at. So that gives you kind of an idea of where we're at. And without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Melissa and Eric.
Thank you, Professor. Hello, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I'm here with my partner, Eric, to talk about the juvenile justice system. So JLWOP stands for Juveniles Life Without the Possibility of Parole, which is what we focused on for our project and for the survey we created. So before we started doing our own research and stuff like that, the professor actually provided us with a bunch of different resources and articles to kind of give us information on, you know, what we were going to be looking into, and kind of gave us a little like background information and kind of like a layer to kind of focus on, you know, before we actually found their research. So according to the findings of a national JLWOP survey conducted by the Sentencing Project in March 2012, about 79% of the juveniles reported during the survey reported witnessing violence in their homes, meaning about 80% of the juveniles that reported for the survey said they witnessed trauma. About 2 in 5 of the survey respondents had been enrolled in special education classes, meaning they were in special needs. And about 61.9% of juvenile lifers are not engaged in prison programming, meaning they're just sitting there, not, you know, fulfilling their sentences, but are not being helped or being guided, you know, trying to lower their sentences in any type of way.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Ramirez, and let's get started by looking at the participant perspective data that we gathered. First, one of the charts that we had indicated to us that only about 33% of respondents said that they trust law enforcement. You'll be able to see that chart a little bit down below. The majority of respondents, about 85% of people, believe that age is an important factor in sentencing to some degree. So in the upper right chart, the first chart indicates to us that most of the people are actually unaware of the types of sentences handed down to juveniles, given that about 1/3 of our respondents said that they disagreed with the sentiment that they were aware of the types of sentences handed to juveniles, and another 1/3, roughly, were also just neutral on the matter. With our second chart, it indicates to us that most people believe that age is an important factor, as you know we mentioned earlier. And only about 1 in 4 people actually disagree with that sentiment. The third chart, which is on the lower left, indicates to us that almost half of our survey takers agree that there should be an equal punishment for the crimes that people commit. And lastly, on the chart to the bottom right, the chart shows us that about 2/3 of survey takers do not have great trust in our law enforcement, which corroborates with the statement we mentioned above. And with that, I'll take it back to Melissa.
Thank you, Eric. So for the survey, we actually broke it kind of into two sections. We asked questions about the perspectives and the sentiments. So for the sentiments, majority of the respondents believe that there should be some side of societal aid program to help those serving long sentences, whether it's in prison or after they come out of prison, helping out those that are in prison. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you can see that over 50% of the people who responded believe that rehabilitation is a possible and better investment than incarceration. So looking at the little charts that we have there, this is actually information that we gathered from our dashboard, the data. The question asks, do you feel that major crime offenders should return to society after their time is up? About 40% of people said maybe, meaning a large majority of the people are actually kind of unsure on how they stand with the question, whereas 28.57% said no and 17.89% said yes. The one on the right-hand side, rehabilitation is possible and better investment than incarceration, which ties in with the statement I had stated earlier. About 36% of the people that responded agreed, and 26.15% also strongly agreed, meaning that's already more than half of the people that responded that's agree and believe that we should have some sort of rehabilitation, or that it should be implemented more or funded more, rather than sentencing these juveniles and just incarcerating all of them altogether. If you scroll down a little bit further, you can see on the left-hand side, the question asks, should there be a program for people who have been released to prison to get their life back on track? And majority of the people believed yes, there should be a type of program. And it's programs like Project Rebound that really help out with that, the statement, more programs like Project Rebound that interact with those and try and get them back on track. And on the right-hand side, the statement says juveniles should be tried as adults if juveniles should be tried as adults if they commit serious offenses. About 27.74% agreed, 18.25% disagreed, and the rest were neutral on the stance, besides the 13% that were strongly disagreeing. Again, we see a trend with the data and the perspectives and in the sentiments that a lot of people are taking the neutral stance on these questions and statements. The following question says, do you believe that life without the possibility of parole should be applied for those that are mentally ill or incompetent? And about, I'd say half of the people said that they disagreed, meaning that, it should not be applied to those that are not mentally capable. And the last question that was asked was, should the mental health of a juvenile being tried as an adult be taken into consideration since the court is considering life without the possibility of parole? About 36% said that they agreed, 28% said that they strongly agreed, 26% said that they were neutral, and 7% said that they disagreed. And then now I'll give it back to Eric to talk about our gatherings from our data.
Thanks, Melissa. So here are our gatherings. Number one, the information that we gathered from the survey was fairly contradictory. This highlights a lack of education about the subject within members of our community, which can stem from multiple places. Number one could be our education system, for one. It doesn't really teach people that, it doesn't really teach, its students about the criminal justice system and how it actually treats children. Some people think that, oh, well, if you commit a crime as a child, then you're just going to go to juvie. But that's just simply not the case, because there's thousands and thousands of minors that are incarcerated and sent to prison just like adults. Sometimes even they serve life without the possibility of parole. And this could also stem from the way the media portrays kids committing crimes and being sentenced as well. The lack of awareness and overall knowledge on the juvenile justice system in our surrounding communities could be holding us back from taking steps forward. There is a disconnect between our youth and their education, in addition to communities and affordable resources. Nonprofit organizations can take note of our survey by gauging communities' opinions and knowledge on juveniles without the possibility of parole, with life sentences. This way, they'll be able to reach out and educate the community through having events such as open houses, for example. And lastly, the survey can also help reform the city on how to reallocate funds. I'll give an example with LAUSD. LAUSD has one of the largest school police departments, but the district can't even afford to have full-time psychiatric social workers in every single school. The city could also invest more funds into programs such as Teen Court, which is an organization within our justice system, specifically within Los Angeles, within Los Angeles's courts, that basically it allows for minors who have committed crimes to have a jury that consists also of minors. So when you have a jury that consists of minors, they'll be able to empathize more with with the defendant. Since they're of similar age, they'll have similar interests, and they'll be able to gauge, they'll be able to familiarize themselves with the thought process of the defendant, which is something that an adult might not be able to do as well with a child. So those are our thoughts. Thank you very much.
You guys did great. Thank you.
Thank you for this. Okay, we're going to move right on to our next innovative faculty member and her students. So thank you for that excellent presentation.
Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Cynthia Cardona, and my class worked on the topic of reproductive rights. So let me ask my students come on here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and what we're going to show you, there it is. Today is the dashboard that was created based on the survey that they worked on. So our topic was reproductive rights this semester. I also had the pleasure of working with two amazing seed scholars, Jorge Rodriguez and Paola Castro. So I'm gonna let Paola introduce the survey for you all.
All right, thank you for that. Hi everyone, my name is Paola Castro. I'm a third-year student at Cal State LA, majoring in business administration. And as Dr. Cardona just said, I'm a seed scholar intern, and I started working with the California Elder Justice Coalition over the summer, focusing on big data analysis projects. As a part of this program, I've had the privilege to become a mentor for Dr. Cardona's class with the pilot course program, NSS, Intro to Higher Education, focused on big data analysis. Throughout this fall semester, these freshman students got to take a dip into big data analysis while focusing on reproductive rights. They worked on several research assignments and brainstormed as a team to create survey questions for their main project. The whole class participated in gathering people to take the survey, and from everyone's efforts, they received many responses, in which Preston then created a dashboard for the class. This course allowed these freshmen to learn a bit more about people's opinions and thoughts on reproductive rights in our community, and it let them learn about the emerging technology of big data analysis, which is widely important today. Now, without further ado, I'll pass it on to two students from our class, Kayla and Jennifer, and they'll talk a bit more about this survey project and their experience.
Alrighty, thank you, Paula. So one of the goals in surveying Los Angeles County on reproductive rights was to encourage a broader understanding of reproductive right issues. We actually found that when asked, people tend to define reproductive rights as being about birth control and abortion. In reality, reproductive rights includes access to healthcare and infant products and so much more. Our survey found that although 53.62% of respondents noticed a shortage of baby products during the COVID-19 pandemic, 44.2% or 61 individuals did not notice the shortage. This can be explained because many people do not live with an infant and do not have a reason to notice these shortages at the stores. In this case, we can see that there is still a lot of work for advocates who want to expand the aid given to the parents with infants. Personally, at the beginning of the year, yes, I did not really care about the availability of baby products as it did not really apply to me, but now after taking the survey and learning about the topic, I realized how the lack of baby supply in stores or the unawareness of the resources available could affect one's family. With that said, a common resource that tends to be overlooked are the benefits of having a midwife. The very last question on our survey asked respondents if they would be open to a midwife or a doula during pregnancy and birth, and if they would be able to afford it. Most said no, including those who said they felt confident in their knowledge of programs and services offered to pregnant individuals. One of the key results of our survey was a disparity in how confident respondents felt about what they knew and their openness to technology and services. While people feel like they have a strong grasp of reproductive issues, answers to other questions revealed that they probably did not have a stronger grasp than they thought. Some of this is expected. The popularity of doulas is a recent development. Doulas are advocates that work with expecting parents and families and often act as go-betweens to doctors and families. Their work has the potential of making a significant impact for at-risk communities. The unawareness of this resource portrays the lack of knowledge and availability for numerous families. But something that really piqued my interest was the mortality rates for Black women and how they are considerably higher than those of other groups. According to experts, this is mainly due to racism within the medical field. Doctors and nurses can often ignore the complaints of Black women until serious complications occur, which result in the death of Black mothers. Coming from someone who is pursuing a career in the medical field, I was shocked. I know that racism is still an issue, but I'm genuinely surprised that doctors discriminate. Fortunately, we are in an area where reproductive rights activists and government officials have the opportunity to partner to reduce the number of Black women who die at childbirth. This is why communities in Los Angeles County could use more information on the role of doulas. They would also need help in order to make the cost of doulas affordable to low-income communities. Our survey also proved to be very effective, as it not only talked about the lack of baby supply in doulas, but also asked questions about reproductive treatments such as a vasectomy or tubal ligations. We found that people were less likely to get a reproductive treatment. This may be due to the stigma that people who only choose to get a reproductive surgery tend to be more sexually active. Growing up, I never felt the interest to have children and brought the idea to my Hispanic mother, as she basically said that I should not go through with it because it quote unquote looks bad. The stigma behind getting a procedure may affect the decision of those who may want to get a procedure to avoid the spread of genetic disorders and those who want to adopt. More work is needed on these topics, and we hope that our survey can help bring attention to these areas. Now, talking about the importance of the survey is Jennifer.
Thank you, Kayla. One of the elements that is most relevant to the Los Angeles community and needs to be expanded on is sexual education in schools. According to the University of Southern California Nursing Department, sex education included information about contraception. Teens had a lower risk of pregnancy than adolescents who received abstinence-only or no sex education. A lack of sexual education affects teens for the rest of their lives. When they have comprehensive sex education, they are able to make better decisions regarding their own bodies. I can relate to this because growing up, the only sex education class I had was watching a 30-minute video in the 6th grade about tampons and how they work. I had to learn everything myself. To this day, I know that I still lack a ton of knowledge regarding reproductive rights, and I know that I am not the only one. 89.98% of our survey participants said that they thought that sexual education can be improved. Most were worried about not having enough information about preventing pregnancies and about the numbers of unwanted pregnancies being too high and the stigma around these conversations. In our class, when Dr. Cardona mentioned male birth control, most students had not heard about it and were surprised that this will be a reality within our lifetime. The spread of information is something that both government and community organizers can tackle with information campaigns that target all age groups within our communities.
So in closing, I want to add that working with this year's freshmen was such a delight, especially given the unprecedented semester. And I really actually felt like I ambushed them with the topic of reproductive rights. I didn't give them a choice. I told them that they were going to be working on reproductive rights. A lot of them were quite scared at the beginning, thinking they were going to have to engage only with the topic of abortion. And then relaxed as the semester moved along. And my main goal was really to help the kind of see reproductive rights as a wider topics. They have met and exceeded all of our expectations, producing really high quality work. The dashboard that was created by Preston for us has been a huge help, and students are already telling me, they were asking me for permission to use it in other classes. So I'm hoping that this is something that they continue to come back to as they expand their experience with big data. So I will throw it to
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Cardona. Before we move on with Dr. Cupchoy and her class, the dean wanted to step in and introduce some of our city partners. We are very grateful for the partnership with community partners and the city of LA. So I introduce you back to Dean Pamela Scott Johnson for a brief comment.
Yes, thank you. And this also gives some of you a chance to take what's called a second inning stretch, since we missed watching our Dodgers this year. Yeah. I want to acknowledge, so I do want to acknowledge the presence of our partners, Jean Holmes from the city of Los Angeles, Phyllis Owens from Community Partners, Meredith Lee, who is our Big Data, Western Big Data Hub Innovation Hub leader, Sarah Stone with the University of Washington, but also a partner with us in the Big Data Hub, and Pamela Leggett Robinson, who is our evaluator. They will probably have a chance to bring their words at the end of our session, but I did want to acknowledge their presence. And if I've left anybody out, please let me know, but I did want to thank them for their presence and acknowledge them. And there are some great questions in the chat, and we will continue to look at how we might engage this and improve. So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Dennis.
Thank you, Dean, very much. Thank you, Phyllis. Phyllis is in the chat. So go ahead and introduce yourself to Phyllis Owens. And there's some other city partners in our chat room as well. I want to introduce you right now to Dr. Lani Cupchoy. She is a filmmaker, an artist, a creative, and she's going to talk about her work with her students and introduce you to her seed scholars. So everybody, let's welcome Dr. Cupchoy. Thank you.
Hey everybody, good afternoon. Bienvenidos a todos. So I'm really excited to be here and to just share space with everyone. And really quickly, I just want to also acknowledge and thank all of the students, right, from all of our different classes that came in and are joining. I know it's extra credit, but it's also wonderful to see that you're engaged with the different topics and the archives and the work that is being done at our university. I have the pleasure of, in this section, to actually, we presented like different topics in the class, right? We wanted to be more organic and holistic and collective. And so the class decided to come forward and say, you know, we're all going through something right now. Why don't we talk about COVID, right? And the pandemic. And so we developed the COVID diaries. And this particular space, what's unique to it is that it archives photographs. So not just what we would say words, right? What we wanted, and just mapping. What we wanted was also poetry and stories, right? Things that were very personal to people, and then figure out a way to kind of map that. And so I'm very happy and excited to report that within the 2 months time, just to give a sense of like our process, right? 2 months time, the students in this class, although we weren't able to completely put everything in, right? But I was keeping track. We were able to collect nearly 500 entries throughout greater Los Angeles, and it spanned into, at some point, Colorado and some other places up north in California, et cetera, right? And so we were really excited about that information. What we were hoping to document, right, and we didn't know what we were going to come up with, but the students will be presenting this to you, was what we wanted to see is how are folks responding, right, to the pandemic? What are they experiencing? What are they witnessing? What are the strategies, right, the thriving strategies, right? And I'm gonna pass it to Cindy, because I know Cindy is my seed scholar for this section, and she was so valuable to guiding a lot of the students in this class. And helping us to build it. And so I also want to thank Preston too for the flexibility, because when we first came, I said, Preston, we're going to document COVID, right? And what's happening in our community, but we want to do it with photographs, right? Can we do it? And Preston's like, of course, we can figure this out. And so you have this fabulous collection of images. And what I'd like to demonstrate, and hopefully what you'll see as the students present, is that these images are also a form of communication. In fact, I would argue it's a lot more powerful to see these images than even the words themselves. And so I really want to thank all of the students that connected, right, and shared their very personal stories. They came from all over Cal State LA. And so Cindy, I'd like to go ahead and pass the baton to you.
Thank you, Dr. Cupchoy. Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy. So I'm the Big Data Resource Mentor for Dr. Cupchoy's class. I think it's been a wonderful experience to work with Dr. Cupchoy in the class, and I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to even join the project because I even made my own submission. I think it was really important to do this project because we're all, as Dr. Cupchoy said, we're all going through something, and it's amazing to see how like similar or different people are experiencing and reacting to it. And I think this project is a way to bring us as a community together. And I would like to present Gabby Duga and Marcel Diaz to present the COVID diaries, and they will better explain it.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so what we'll be doing is we will be explaining more in depth exactly the COVID diaries are. So exactly what the COVID diaries are is a project that was conducted by the students of Dr. Cupchoy's class. So basically what they did was survey the general public about their experiences during the COVID-19 pandemic. During this project, they were separated into groups. They answered 2 critical questions: how the local, state, and federal government can help the community and students, and how Cal State LA and any other Cal State LA can help the student individually. In being able to survey the general public, we were able to input all these responses into a bigger survey, and from that survey create a dashboard. And on that dashboard, in continuation of that dashboard, you will see a map that displays all these responses. On the following 3 slides, you will see pictures of the dashboards, and on the left side of them, you will see examples of activism. An original picture that was taken, and the explanation for that original picture about how it relates to COVID-19 and how the person individually is dealing with the pandemic. So when we're taking a look at this map, what we see is small examples of all the COVID entries that we have gotten throughout this semester. And on the following one, this map shows the internet accessibility from public libraries and Wi-Fi access points. And on this little legend pretty much represents the percentage of households that hold internet access. In continuation, my partner and I will quickly debrief the 5 major themes that we got from this project.
Thank you, Marisol. So today we're looking into economics. And one of the things that we're looking at economics is that as COVID-19 came to LA, businesses were affected greatly, resulting to closures. So the solution that has done so far is that the federal government gave a one-time stimulus check earlier this year in March. Also, the federal government also distributed an unemployment assistance for those who were unemployed due to the COVID pandemic earlier this year. One of the main issues with this is that because it's only a one-time check, Congress must give more stimulus checks and more money in order to provide much needed assistance for the families. Next slide, please. So when we look into education, one of the problems that we look into is the need of technology, such as internet, mental health support, and guidance for parents to cope during the shutdown. One of the solutions that was done so far is that schools and universities have given hotspots to students that don't have an internet access. However, the solutions that need an urgent solution is that the federal and the local governments must cooperate with the telecommunication companies like AT&T and T-Mobile in order to implement free internet access throughout LA County. So with respect to the vulnerable population, we look into much of the problems, such as lack of social distancing, testing kits, and the nursing homes, detention centers, state prisons, which cause a mass amount of spreading and infections within these locations. So the solution that is needed urgently and needs to be resolved fast is that the need of social distancing in detention centers, homeless camps, and nursing homes, and the state and federal prisons. Also, we want to have a priority access of free healthcare for those who are at the vulnerable sectors, such as the elderly and the seniors.
Okay, so when we are talking about health, we're talking about mental, emotional, and physical health. Solutions that have been implemented so far are the fact that there are free public testing centers. Some schools have provided meditation Zoom calls and the constant sanitation of public areas. We were to break down these solutions into a bigger depth. When we talk about free public testing centers, we do emphasize on the word free, but the problem is that many of these public testing centers are sometimes told to be only drive-through, or the fact that they are too far for other people to reach. So we should try to increase the amount of testing centers that are implemented for the community. And when we talk about meditation Zoom calls, most of the time those Zoom calls are limited to the fact that they are just for students. So a solution for that would be that we let it be spread out to the community. Social, cultural regulations and policies. Before COVID-19, there were these regular norms that everybody was used to, being allowed to go to holiday parties, being out with your friends, going to school every day. But now that has changed because of the fact of COVID-19. We have social distancing, the wearing masks, and most importantly, the communication through social media. I want to talk more in depth about the communication through social media. Communication through social media has become very impactful because of the fact that through this, we are able to share information about COVID-19. The problem with this is the fact that some of the information that's shared is not fact-checked. To solve this problem, there should be a social platform specifically about COVID-19 with constant updates about the situation. That way, when people end up sharing the information, then they are able to keep up to date and be able to help everyone else around them.
Finally, as we finish this slide, is that this archive that we've conducted is that this is uniquely, as Professor Cupchoy said, because this is a collection of works throughout the greater Los Angeles, illustrate artivism through photography, images, and stories that have been collected throughout this pandemic. Also, this archive is a living archive document of the stories of people like us, sharing the beauty, the compassion, and the strength of humanity experienced with the pandemic within our communities. And lastly, we see the importance of collecting big data as a way for us to communicate and to connect with policymakers, both local and the federal government, and other authorities to muster funds in order to support our communities. So that's all for our presentation. Thank you.
Dr. Dennis, your mic is muted again.
I know, that's like the third time, Dr. Cupchoy, today. I'd be having all this good language and then no one hears me. We're going to take a short little break. I want you guys to stretch your legs, but we're going to introduce our next poll. Okay, so let me go ahead and share the results from the first one. Okay, and then Dr. Gio, can you access our poll for the second one for us? We had 3 of them, but thank you guys. Oh, yes. Did we get it? Let me see.
Share results.
It should be poll number 2, audience check-in, and make sure everybody's doing good. Why don't you answer me in chat while we get this poll ready? Are you guys enjoying this scholarship, this big data? Let me know in chat, yes or no. And also reach out to our innovative instructors also in chat, okay? While we figure out why we can't get this poll up really fast. Dr. Hortua, can you see it on your side?
No, I'm not seeing it. I'm so sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Let me read the comments. We can save this. Okay. Dr. Monk is here. Dr. Khadijah Monk is our community scholar for our 2021 spring course redesign. She's redesigning a course with 100 students to implement and bring in big data. So she'll be working closely with Preston as well, okay? I don't know why our poll's not working. We're gonna get right on that, but thank you, Dr. Choi. Appreciate this. Paola, thank you so much, okay? Thank you guys so much for attending this space and sharing space with everybody. I don't know what happened to our poll. Wait, hold on one second. Here we go. This is it right here, okay? So get ready, just take this poll real fast for us, and then we're gonna end in about a minute, okay? Thank you, Dr. Cupchoy. Your students fascinating. This is great work, you guys. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you, Dr. Lee, for that. Okay, so everybody, the poll is up. Go ahead and give us your selection, and we'll start again in a couple minutes. but I wanted to thank you everybody for coming to this. It really means a lot for our freshmen to see such great support. Let me see what else is going on. Yes, Dr. Monk, these are freshmen. These are freshmen, and Preston and the faculty worked together for almost like 15 weeks on this. And we met every Friday to talk pedagogy and talk out things. And yes, they are amazing, amazing what these instructors have done with these freshmen. We love this. And this is what we're supposed to be doing, is introducing our freshmen to these skills. So yeah. Dr. Monk, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate this. But yeah, this is their first time in college. And they were able to learn from these instructors, Dr. Cupchoy and Dr. Hortua and Dr. Munoz, Dr. Cardona, and then Professor Branter. So yes, okay. All right, did everybody take the poll? Are we about ready to go? I think so. Dr. Gio, what do you think? We're ready to go? I can't hear you, okay.
No, I think we're always ready to go.
Ready to go. Okay. All right. I want to introduce Dr. Hortua to the virtual audience today, and his students and everything are going to be sharing their knowledge with us. Let me end the poll real fast. Okay, got it. I am done. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And so as we segue into more great work by a lot of our students today, we want to say thank you, and we want to remind the previous presenters, of course, that you know, there's always something more to talk about, something more that will carry conversations into other sections, into other arenas. So thank you very much. Now, our presentation is entitled LA County Community Resident Perceptions of COVID-19 Safety, Discrimination, and Homelessness. And the reason why it focuses on so many different angles has a lot to do with what students wanted to focus on in the classroom. So it wasn't just one particular topic, as we've been demonstrated for the most part today. We've decided that we were going to address all student concerns, and that was basically the direction that we had. So the student presenters that affiliated themselves, signed up, volunteered, and ultimately did their best to be able to, and those that obviously could not, has a lot to do with being an essential worker, of course. But I do want to thank Sofia Pletis, Jalen, Volpiciente, Yvette Cisneros, of course, Alma Perez, Nancy J. Mondido, and as our audible, if you will, Anthony Carlos. So I will pass the baton on to our wonderful, fascinating, imperative seat scholar, that is, of course, Miss Erin Weir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Professor Hortua. So my name is Erin Weir, and over the summer, I had the opportunity to be a seed scholar and intern for a nonprofit called LA Walks in partnership with Cal State LA Community Partners and ArcGIS, which gave me valuable data and experience that allowed me to work with the NSS 1001 Section 11 class on their data project this semester, which I'm happy to introduce. This project allowed students to do research on their social issues of interest. Now, in order to do this research, they had to tap into their data skills. There we go. Tap into their data skills. In 2020, the means of research and data collection has expanded tremendously to try to match the mass intake of information. So for this project, the students went on a journey to explore data search through their own data collection via the ArcGIS survey. The class as a whole chose to introduce perceptions because they saw them as an essential part of a functioning community. Focusing on perceptions and giving everyone an equal voice, especially in such tumultuous times, can prove to be invaluable to historians, activists, politicians, or fellow residents in the area. This idea led the students to focus on the four main topics of safety, homelessness, COVID-19, and discrimination. The survey itself took into consideration age, gender, and ethnicity to get an overall understanding of what we were working with. And now onto the topics with Sophia on safety.
Thank you, Erin. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia, and one of the topics in our big data survey has to do with attempting to assess the community's perception of safety. In order to do so, it's important to understand that the safety of any city could be determined by perception of crime, traffic, or speeding in any given area. For instance, in the first 3 months of of the pandemic, the state of California has seen an 8% increase in the number of people killed on the roadways. Despite Los Angeles Vision Zero initiative enacted in 2015 was to eliminate traffic fatalities by 2025. The numbers have been rising and COVID has been a negative contributor to those numbers. So our class sought to capture a perception of what community members of Los Angeles County believed were necessary elements to preserve safety. In my personal experience, I noticed in residential areas where there were a few streetlights and many of the vehicles passing by couldn't take notice to pedestrians that were walking around the area, which is very riskful because any accidents and fatal injuries can happen. So as a base, we use the crime index geo layer provided by Esri to give us a visualization of the crime in LA County neighborhoods for a foundation for evaluating safety. So we chose to showcase the overall speeding and traffic safety in these neighborhoods for these sections, as many LA neighborhoods are impacted by these factors. So we used a 1 to 5 rating for these questions. Upon our analysis, we found that overall residents rated their communities as being the safer side of a 41% and combined to a 4 to 5 rating, 5 of course being extremely safe, while that number definitely varies as you zoom in. Next, for the traffic and speeding section, we were asked to rate them on how much traffic and speeding they observed in their neighborhoods on a scale of 1 to 5. We noticed that when comparing two cities and contrasting percentages of safety, Southgate has a 36% low safety rating of 1 and 2, and Alhambra area having a 20% low safety rating. The heavy traffic and heavy speeding ratings more than doubled for the higher 36% in Southgate. Lastly, I noticed that, within the survey, it brought us to more of a realization of certain communities that deal with safety issues. So now let's look onto homelessness with Jocelyn.
Thank you, Sophia. By 2020, the Los Angeles my name is Jalen, and I will not talk about homelessness. By 2020, the Los Angeles Homelessness Authority shows that approximately 66,000 individuals are experiencing homelessness, which is a 12.7 rise from 2019. This number accounts for individuals who are unsheltered, which is 48,041 individuals, and those who have been placed in permanent housing, which is 18,395 individuals. During this year, with COVID-19 added as another factor forcing the homeless to reckon with, there has been concern over effectively fighting COVID, as one report by ABC News showed that roughly 5% of homelessness tested positive for the coronavirus. Our data collected presents perceptions with regards to homelessness in LA County that complements the existing city of LA data. To me, the issue of homelessness is important because in the past, I have volunteered at nonprofits such as the Midnight Mission in hopes to help others and such issues in the LA community. Now, to dive deeper into this issue today, we added a geodata layer of year-round homeless shelters in the LA County area, symbolized by the blue shelter symbols for context as to where the county recognizes these needs. As for questions, we wanted to know the resident perceptions of viewing homelessness as a major issue, if their city council is paying enough attention to the issue, and whether homelessness makes them feel safe. With the first question of, do you believe homelessness is a major issue in LA County? We noticed that overall, about 95% of people said yes. They do recognize this as a major issue in LA County. Next, we found that a majority of people also believe that their city council is not paying enough attention to the city of homeless, with about 37% of people rating it at a 1, which is the lowest score for city attention. The rating of 1 is the most picked answer across the county, with the exception of the two rating being the majority in the central LA region. Then we wanted to know if the presence of homelessness made people feel unsafe. We found that those choosing yes and indifferent as answers were about tied for the majority of the responses. Yes or indifferent took turns being the majority throughout the county, with the exception of no, they do not feel unsafe, with the homeless presence being the majority of the south of the city of Bell/Huntington Park area. Lastly, after looking at the data, I also noticed that the issue of homelessness is greater in communities that are minority dominated, which shows that these areas will greatly benefit from newer policies. And now that I've finished talking about homelessness, let's take a look at COVID-19.
Thank you, Jaden. Moving on, 2020 will be remembered for many events and challenges in our society, including COVID-19. There are countless reports as demonstrated today with Dr. Cupchoy's classroom of the many challenges that COVID-19 has brought to our Southern California. As part of our survey, our class sought to reach out to community members and access their perception as the coronavirus and also highlight how the new virus has transformed their lives. In doing so, it becomes clear that the perceptions on COVID are valuable to testify to challenges faced by our communities. From personal experience, COVID has affected my school environment since I had to adapt to online school so suddenly. In order to gauge communities' perceptions in our survey, we added a geodata layer produced by the LA County showing the COVID-19 daily current and accumulate cases, which is represented by the lighter and darker blue polygons. As shown here, the darker the shade, the higher the amount of cases. We chose to focus on questions of health concern, financial concern, and satisfaction with remote work learning. Youngest to oldest. The first question asked on a scale of 1 through 5, with 1 being the least health concern and 5 being the most health concern, was how concerned are you regarding COVID-19 in your neighborhood? We saw that around 49% rated a 4 or 5, showing more people being more concerned than least concerned. We also saw that by looking at the demographic information that the percentage of most health concern generally increased as we looked at the age groups. We saw that the same weight placed on the most side of the same 1 through 5 scale for the financial concern, 5 being the most financially concerned, around 49% as well. Looking closer at the demographic data, we saw that the most financial concern lied within the 30 to 49 age range, with about 85% of the most financially concerned side. We saw that in some areas like East LA, the financial concern was higher than the health concern, whereas other cities like Alhambra have them equal. Then we asked about the satisfaction remote learning work. We saw that a greater majority of people voted 1 or 2, which is at a 46% when rating their experience. The age range of 18 to 29 reported the highest amount of dissatisfaction at about 55%. Lastly, I noticed that the overall majority of the participants were either from ages 18 to 29, Latino, and females. Most of the activities occurring in the survey are mostly surrounding the area of Los Angeles. Now moving on to discrimination.
Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Cadenas, and for our next topic, we recognize that in Southern California, as much as the rest of the nation has historically witnessed discrimination on various fronts, such as race, class, gender, age, disability, and or different abilities, and etc. Unfortunately, one of the latest and possibly deadly forms of discrimination is associated with the community's relationship to law enforcement, a legacy that is still being witnessed and captured multiple times on video. The collected data provides us with a view into a sample of LA County's perceptions on discrimination and also adds to many stories shared throughout the nation, as well as presented to the city of Los Angeles. Discrimination should still be talked about, especially nowadays, because it is still prevalent in lots of communities. And unfortunately this year, police brutality and discrimination was a huge issue. For this portion, we were ultimately curious as to whether LA County residents have observed discrimination against any group in their community. Overall, the answers of yes and no were practically equal and highly dependent on the area specifically observed. We saw that the places where yes became a clear majority was in the East and South LA regions. We also saw, with looking at the demographic information, that as we increased the age range, we looked at yes answers decreased, with no one in our 50 to 59 or 60 plus range experiencing discrimination. Lastly, I also noticed that in higher income neighborhoods, we were hardly experiencing any form of discrimination as opposed to lower income areas such as South Central East LA experiencing a great amount of discrimination.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Mondito, and one question that's important to address is the connection to nonprofits. How can this survey inform nonprofits that work to address specific issues within our communities? This survey can help nonprofit organizations see which areas witness communities are struggling with improving community life, as well as ensure that voices are heard and not only collected, regardless of socioeconomic status. Ultimately, this is essential for any type of nonprofit to be aware of where they are at in the work that they are doing and in the Southlands as well, to address what needs to still be done. Also, with regards to the City of Los Angeles, how can these findings inform the City of Los Angeles to improve on specific taxpayer services? This is absolutely an opportunity for the City of Los Angeles to have the most current information. In this case, how are people feeling about different topics that demonstrate to be of utmost concern to the community members, such as things like safety, homelessness, COVID-19, and discrimination? These topics during this economically stressing time period highlight the most current info on services that still need to be improved to this day, such as their funding, as well as promote keeping our city council accountable to what their residents are saying, especially considering what people do pay attention to and what goes on in their community, and undoubtedly that people do care. Our presentation blended data with the most important human factor, perception. We want to suggest our themes of safety, homelessness, COVID-19, and discrimination connect and remind us that as a city, as members of respective communities, within the larger context of our county community, it is vital that policymakers and pertinent officials keep in mind the stories, the supporting data, the conversation, and the threads constructed with this presentation to other presentations this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is great. I'm going to introduce you to our last faculty member, Dr. Jorge Munoz and his students, but I wanted just to say thank you so much for that innovative presentation. I'm so proud of Dr. Hortua's students and his work. So let's just give him a little virtual clap, hit that emoji in the bottom, okay? Thank you. I'm also very grateful that the audience has stayed with us. At one point we had 114, which I think is phenomenal support for our students, the Seed Scholars, and our faculty. So again, I'm very grateful for this support, but we're on to Dr. Munoz. So let's go. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hortua. Dr. Munoz, ready? Yes, good.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Jorge Munoz. And before we start, I would like to say that unfortunately, Laura Lee Sandoval, my Seed Scholar, can't make it today. She woke up ill and is currently getting tested, unfortunately, for COVID. So if you could send her positive thoughts, hopefully, it's just a bad cold. Let's hope that it's nothing more than that. What we wanted to do with this particular survey is take a look at group membership and how our group membership intersects to establish our behaviors in society. One of the things that our students got together and discussed was how we would go ahead and take a look at how we engage in our behaviors. And some of the questions we looked at in topics were religion, political affiliation, economic status, race, and ethnicity. And they're the ones who actually came up with some ideas. I came up with the first, which is political affiliation, economic status, but and religion, they added race, ethnicity, and it was a very interesting conversation that we engaged in together. I would like to introduce, let me stop sharing this. This is the dashboard that we produced along with Preston. Thank you very much, Preston, for your hard work. Where we looked at race, ethnicity, economic status, political affiliation, religion. We also have a map here where we look at economic data and see how economic data affect also our behaviors in terms of society. We also looked at economic data looking at where we have the poorest neighborhoods versus some of the more affluent neighborhoods. We also have political data in terms of where people align themselves in political districts and how they connect. And also we look at demographic data. Over here we have the legends on which peoples live in what areas. And as you can see, there is a definite trend of ethnicity in terms of where people tend to live in particular neighborhoods. I would like to now introduce, let me share that screen. I'd like to introduce Jocelyn Arzate and Brenda Valencia, who did a wonderful job of analyzing this data and provide some information and some insights that they gathered from it. So without much more ado, Jocelyn.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jocelyn. Today, my partner Brenda and I will be discussing and going over results of a survey that we conducted with the help of our classmates and professor. For the survey, everyone in our class pitched in ideas for questions to be asked. After deciding on the best questions to input, we sent out the survey to many people in our community and friends. We ended up receiving over 400 replies, which is amazing. And from those results, we did an analysis of the survey as our project, which we will be going over today. The main topics were race and ethnicity, political and religion affiliation, as well as economic status. Each topic contained more than one question, but my partner and I decided to analyze the questions that stood out to us more. Let's begin. So for the first one, we will be going over race and ethnicity. So the question that we picked out was, do you believe that because of your race, you are provided with more or less opportunities? For this section, as you can see, most people overall took the survey and answered somewhat less opportunities, with a total of 116 people answering that reply, which tells us that many see their ethnicity and race as an obstacle in their life when it comes to advancing in either education or a job opportunity. Many may have answered this because it has been seen before in the past, where many minorities have not had the same opportunities as others in this country. Next slide, please. The next topic is economic status. For this, the question we picked out was, does your economic status define your political views? The most percentage was 28.89 answered agreed. Many may have chosen this option because they may feel as if their choices are influenced by where they may live and the views that people around them may already have. The place they may live, for example, their community, due to their economic status, may already have certain views on any political situation. The education they receive due to their economic status influences that as well and plays a big part due to the resources that they may have access to. The next two slides will be discussed by my partner, Brenda.
Okay, good afternoon. The next set of results was based on religion. No, the one before. Okay, yeah. So the next set of results was based on religion. Like Jocelyn mentioned, there was a couple questions, but we chose the ones that compelled us more. And the one that really got our attention was this one that reads, is there a correlation between religion and the political party you have chosen? Looking at the results, you can see that 71 people agree. 106 are neutral, meaning they can either say that they can't agree or they can't disagree, but they're in the middle, and then 16 agree. And for the results, it is very interesting to have come to the conclusion that not a lot of people differentiate their political views with their religion. There should be a line between church and state, and a lot of people have ignored it and do not think that it is necessary, when in fact it very much is. Next. And then the final category that we had was political affiliation, and I more so chose this specific question, keeping in mind all the other ones that we had already went over, because this one asks, on a scale of 1 to 5, would you consider yourself more liberal or conservative? I chose this one not only because we have this new set of information, but also we have prior information that we can come to a conclusion. We can say that the other categories, which were race, ethnicity, economic affiliation, and religion, help guide them with their conclusion on where they were on the scale. And then the infographic. As the next step of our project, we came up with an infographic to summarize the dashboard as a whole. We took in all the categories and analyzed them separate, and then also analyzed what they all represented and how they all came together. We came to the conclusion that when looking at the overall messages the dashboard sent out, it came out to decision making. Every single part of the category all had to do with what people use and what people think about when they have to make a decision. They all use all aspects to finalize their thoughts. For example, in our dashboard, we have aspects of race, ethnicity, political affiliation, and religious affiliation coming into play and helping, or I guess, individuals to come to decisions. We included an example in our infographic. For example, someone from Cuba may be more conservative simply because of the fact of their background. They embrace a more conservative way of life with the American ideals in mind and also communist beliefs considering where they're from. So for example, someone from Cuba can move, let's say, to Los Angeles, and not only do they bring themselves, but they bring their prior beliefs and everything with them. And then back to Jocelyn.
To finalize our infographic and our presentation, research shows that with every decision, someone has external factors guiding them. Although this can guide someone to come to a great decision, it is important to differentiate which factors can help and harm your decision. It is important for one as an individual to recognize if the factors they are looking at is even relevant. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jocelyn and Brenda. The work that you guys have done is incredible in analyzing all this data. And I know there was a lot of data to analyze because we wanted to look at so many factors that influence behavior in our society. And I think this is a really good example of what the students have done in the class. Back to you, Dr. Dennis.
Thank you, Dr. Munoz. This concludes the student presentations, but we wanted to hang out with you a little bit more to see if you had any questions. For any of our faculty members, our students, you can put it in chat. You can ask them, on video too, okay? We have a couple more minutes that we can do this before we kind of wrap things up, okay? But go ahead and put your questions in chat or feel free to connect with our faculty and our students right here in our space, okay? Wait a minute.
I have a,
Okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dr. Monk. I was waiting for somebody to speak.
Yeah, well, so for the students, when you started this journey, were you able to conceptualize what you were going to produce at the end of the semester? Or what the end product would be?
Can I go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Professor Cardona is my professor, and we first started talking about reproductive rights as in like the most common things like abortion and contraception. So I thought it was going to be like along those lines, but I never thought that we'd be talking about baby product availability. And I feel like that kind of shows that we come in thinking that there's only like certain stuff that we'll talk about, but in reality, there's like a whole range that we don't even know. Like, for example, I didn't even know there was such a thing as male birth control until like 2 months into school. And we were all surprised. We're like, what is this? I don't know. I feel like it's always just like a learning experience. So no, I didn't think I'd be talking about the availability or the fact that, I don't know, just all the stuff that we were talking about, same thing, how they're Black women when they're more likely to like die at childbirth. I didn't know that. And I feel like it's always good to have like the awareness because we don't know this and we're students and we're still learning, but I don't think there's such a thing as being too aware. It's always good to have a little bit information about everything.
No, that's fantastic. And then thinking about what you guys found out, what would you recommend?
Honestly, I feel like it would be kind of more of the just like paying attention more to like the city websites and just like actually making the effort and looking into the programs that can actually benefit us. Because I feel like that's one thing that I guess my generation doesn't really do. Like most of us really shy to kind of like ask for help. And I feel like although that's like the setting in the classroom, it's going to show, especially when we're in need of something and we don't know like where to look or how to look.
Yeah, it's not just your generation. It's just the trying to understand and navigate the labyrinth of city resources too. No, I think that's great. Thank you.
Can I respond to your question?
Yeah, please.
On behalf of Professor Cupchoy and with Cindy Chen and Marisol Diaz, I think when we did this project, I didn't have it. I had an inkling that we're collecting data, but we didn't know how big was this going to be. And so like when we were on the process of making PowerPoint slides, and I realized that wow, there are so many places that there are so many stories that we need to be told, because I'm a history major, and as a student, being trained in history, the people's perspective needs to be heard, not just those yeah, big players are there, but the perspective of people needs to be heard in order to understand their suffering, their pains, and their their thoughts, like what's going on, right? So at the end, this gives me more appreciation that these data should be used for good use for to our policymakers, both in federal and state government. So yeah, I think that's something that was my biggest takeaways in this project.
Fantastic. Yeah, these can be used to inform policy. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Monk, for that. Any other questions? I was answering some of them in chat. Students and faculty, put your email in chat so we have a record of it, and then the audience can stay in contact with you as well. I am saving chat for us, but that way people can just copy and paste it into their address books. Any other questions from the audience? Any other questions? We have one more poll. I'm going to close it out soon, but I wanted just to continue sharing space with this innovation too. Preston, did you have anything that you wanted to? Oh, hey, Dean, yes.
I've been lurking in chat.
The question that I put in the chat is, how students, how do you think that you will use this new knowledge, and will you seek it out in your classrooms, and how do you think you'll continue to be able to have this kind of access?
I think personally, well, I'm not a freshman, I'm a senior. I think once I go out in the professional world, like I can use this data in order to shine light of what injustices that is happening in our county, and what kind of reforms, or what kind of some plan of action in order to resolve this kind of gargantuan problem, because COVID is really a Herculean task for us to do. So move after COVID or whatnot, I think whatever I do professionally, I think this can be used greatly in order to to question our officials, question everybody, like why are we not doing a good job on this, to ask really the most frankest question in order to solve the problem, major problems.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Any other comments, or just in general? Any other questions, or you just want to comment? Jeannie, did you want to say something, please?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jean Holman, the Deputy Mayor of Los Angeles, and I just wanted to thank all the students. This is so impressive. You guys have all been super honest about kind of like your learning path and the journey, and then just the quality of work. I'm a professor at UCLA as well, and I am just saying I am blown away. Every time I work with the groups here at Cal State LA, but particularly this group, I just want to say your quality of work is so good, and you've really thought through different aspects. And then also, one of the best things in any researcher is curiosity. So I heard several of you talking about like, well, we started to do it this way, but then we really were intrigued by something we saw. And I think that's really how a lot of scientific discovery happens. So just thank you. It's really impressive work, and I'm just so grateful you guys are partners with us.
We're grateful for your partnership and your continued partnership. Thank you so much for that. Anybody else just want to comment and share space? I feel like that we are a community. You know, this is your time right now to discuss anything else. Anybody want to say anything? Dr. Ye?
Dr. Dennis, I do see that Eva is on the chat, and I apologize for missing an opportunity to introduce her as well as our other guests.
Please take that time.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Scott Johnson. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm so impressed by your presentations today. I'm the Deputy Chief Data Officer at the City of Los Angeles. And I guess my question is, looking ahead, given all that you've learned over the course of this semester, what dream projects would you like to apply these newfound skills to?
Someone can answer. Anybody can answer. Students, don't be shy.
Open-ended question to everyone. Yeah.
Yes, don't be shy. We're all big data community here. Okay, so jump on in.
I'll go ahead and start because for me, what I realized is that like I could be using in every course I teach reproductive rights history in most of my courses. And one of the things that I've been noticing too in organizations that work on reproductive rights is the collection of stories of individuals who go through abortions, especially in an effort to destigmatize abortions. And there are several different nonprofit organizations working on that, but there's not a central location to find all those stories. And so like one of my project things I've had I now have in the pipeline of my dream projects would be to create a database to collect all those stories and find the different repositories where they're currently being held.
Dr. Cardona, we can move into with the library on that too, because the library is in our chat and they're asking how we can support big data too. So that's a conversation that we can have and continue to have. I know Lani Cupchoy, Dr. Cupchoy built her archive. There's always ways that we can build archives and everything. So thank you for that. Alejandro from the Chicano and Latino Studies Department at CSULA at the college said, we need more research spaces. So yeah, this is excellent and everything. Let's continue this dialogue about big data access. Dr. Hortua.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Cardona was saying. I think it's important, you know, at least from what our different classes have done, to be able to motivate them politically in terms of the electoral process. So that's one thing where I definitely believe that this is something that could connect data to the political process of voting, of reaching out to different communities and saying, you know, if we're really looking for political or policy change, it really has to be at the ballot, right? So a lot of these things that can be promoted in terms of the politic absolutely can take place there, as much as we discuss this in the classroom, right? So definitely, you know, here's a golden opportunity to create a wonderful bridge between City of LA and the university campuses to be able to at least, you know, get into that arena, right? So that's one way for sure.
Thank you, Dr. Hortua. I would like the professors that are doing the course redesign in the 2021 spring semester to stay in contact with these professors from fall 2020. Let's see if we can expand on this and have these conversations and share data and maybe pedagogy and assignments as well to make it easier. Preston and I, yeah, Khadijah, Dr. Monk, absolutely. Preston and I are building a canvas and we're going to integrate a lot of this into, you know, for the instructors to share resources. But I think we should continue this dialogue and build from it too. So I'm very grateful for that. Anybody else would like to speak to share their experiences? Dr. Cupchoy.
Yeah, I'll go quick. Or Dr. Munoz? Dr. Munoz, did you want to go ahead first?
Connect to what Dr. Dennis was saying real quick about the course redesign. One of the things that I'm excited about is that I got the mini grant for the course redesign for next semester. And one of the incredible things, and you know, thank you, Dr. Cupchoy. One of the things I saw from your presentation and the presentation from your students is now an idea that I'm definitely going to be using in my course redesign for next semester. So
are you appropriating stuff from my class?
I'm already taking ideas. You know, I was writing down notes. So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this was great because now I have an idea of what I want to do with my project for the fall the spring semester. And I think it's going to be great to be able to add the media and the pictures and the things that your students showed because it shows a lot. Like you said, they tell a story, and I like that. I'm definitely going to be using that next semester.
And that is where the college library comes into play, right there, as a collaboration, in addition to the City of Los Angeles and then the community partners as well, because they can help us build that database if we're really serious about this, as we should, you know. Anything else? Any other comments? Dr. Cupchoy, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to chime in very quickly. I mean, I think it's very beautiful, this experience, you know, speaking as an instructor of one of these courses. I think it's wonderful to see not only the different partnerships from the city, from the university, from the library, right? And at least the one lesson that I take away from this experience as an instructor, because I feel I learned more from the students, to be honest with you, right? I don't know how to explain it, but we set out with just very inquisitive kind of questions, right? We didn't really have anything set out on this is how it's going to end. And if we think how are we going to take this to the next level, right? What was important is that what we're seeing with a lot of the students is, and even faculty and different people, it's like there's something about the pandemic that people feel very stunned. And like, I don't know, we feel delayed. Like I've been trying to submit some things that were due like months ago, right? That I'm barely doing now. And so it's amazing. I want to commend like all of the students, the seed scholars, right? All the classes, the faculty for even putting this kind of an event together and this semester, right? Because I was saying this was kind of like a panzazo semester where we were just trying to figure it out as we go along. But as you can see from the work of these students, right? That it's really the archives that is speaking for itself. So at least for me, I wanted to share one very personal story that came across in this collection. And it was an image of one of our grad students, right? I don't have that picture with me because I wasn't prepared to share it, but it is in our archive. So you can actually go and look for it. But she's an MA student, I believe, from the CLS department. And she took a picture in her pajamas with her graduation cap and gown. Her two babies were in the front on the floor, right? And she said, I took this picture and I staged it because I wanted people to see that during COVID, I was a mom, I was working full time. I was, you know, also hustling when it came to like the classes and the workload. My kids were there. I was at home. I was doing everything. I was a wife. And it was just so powerful for me to see that, right? That we have such amazing people really trying to make it work, you know, in life. And to me, that if I were to have like a picture that encapsulates like what that archive is, right? She would be on the cover with her two little girls. It was just so beautiful to see. And so my hope is that for all the folks that are seeing this piece and the data, right, that we have been collecting and all the archives that you see here today, that you hopefully help to build this, continue it, expand, and that it continues to connect community, right? Because I think what's important is the research with the students, right? It needs to connect to our community and really be a reflection of who we are. So I'll stop with that.
No,
thank you for my 2 cents.
Thank you. I worked with Dr. Cupchoy in the past, and it was always about community. Every project that we were on, or just ideas, it was so about community. So I'm very grateful to have learned from my colleagues in this big data, you know, semester and everything like that. I wanted to see if Preston had anything. Preston is our guru, our tech person. All knowing is who he is and everything. There's not a problem that he can't solve. And when I started as a program manager, I knew nothing. Here I was, I'm like, hey, Dean gave me a position. I'm so excited to work with my Dean. And, you know, what am I supposed to be doing? And Preston guided me and really made me shine. You know, his mother is a historian, and that was our connection. So I'm very grateful that Preston took me under his wing as a program manager to really get this going and to, you know, be innovative and make it successful. So I owe him a lot of gratitude. For being patient with me as well as a faculty member and everything. So Preston, please share some stuff, you know, share with us. This is space, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis. Hi, everyone. My name is Preston Mills. I'm the community data manager for the grant. And I just really want to, thank everyone for coming. It's really exciting that we actually got to really get involved with the data to the way that we have today, because it's really important for all of us to know, whether you're a student, whether you're a faculty, whether you're a city employee or working at a nonprofit or just came to enjoy. It's really important to understand that everything that we do has often been kind of alienated, and we think that it's just just our daily lives, and we take that for granted, in the sense that actually a lot of the things that we experience can actually be understood and quantified as data. And we see that experience from the ways that Microsoft, Zoom, so many platforms often capitalize off of this information. And yet what we are aiming to do is to say that we can use that same information that we live, that we experience, to discuss and engage with the community and to advocate for things that we see are really important for us. And so that's really what the goal has been for this grant, and it's really been exemplified by our amazing students and faculty. So I really want to just thank everyone for being able to participate, because this is an ongoing practice. At the city, one of the main things is that this entire community organization that the dashboards were built on, the surveys were collected, is actually openly available to any and everyone to access. And so I definitely encourage you all, as you're thinking about engaging with Cal State LA, thinking about engaging with the city, often feel free to reach out to me, and we're really excited to support you all in everything that you're doing. So again, I often kind of like to work in the background and do my little tech thing. But I just really appreciate everything else that everyone's done, because without it, we would not be able to see the way that community and data can intersect in ways that narratives often say that data is. Oftentimes we're told that data is, something that only quant folks can engage in, or, folks that worked in STEM. And yet when we take a look at it a little bit deeper, we realize that all of us are actively engaging with data all the time. So again, thank you all for joining, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Preston. Preston's awesome. He just is. I love this. Dr. Hortua had a question for the audience, so please.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. And of course, Preston, thank you, everything. It's like a total understatement for all you've done for us, right? So, for real, thank you very much as always. There's a question from Alejandro Covarrubias. And the question is, are there plans to integrate access to data for community folks?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think the data team at the city has been doing a lot of this work. And so one thing that I would always encourage folks is to actually check out a lot of the work that happens at the city. I'm actually, we have 2 data platforms, and we can go on and on about all of the different ways that you can engage with it. But I would also just encourage everyone to just reach out to anyone in this chat room, reach out to either myself, Ava Pereira, the Chief Deputy Chief Data Officer at the city, as well as our Deputy Mayor, Jean Home, to just talk about how the city is providing data, showing data, using data to kind of address some of these community-oriented work.
And I just dropped a link in the chat to data.lacity.org. That's where all of our open data lives. And we've consolidated the GeoHub data. We've pulled it over into that site. So you can find everything on that link now.
Thank you, Ava, for putting the link in the chat. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to say anything? Yes, Dean. Dean is raising her hand. Yes.
Yeah, so I want to thank Ava and Jean, but I also want to acknowledge that this project really recognizes that our nonprofit organizations and members of the broader community may not know how to access that. We're in an academic institution where we have people that not only look at the analytics and the methodology, and yet our students find themselves with big visions and no way to know how to access that. And so one of the things that's really important to us is the culturally responsive and relevant research projects that again lead the students there. And so I know that the increasing the data capacity for nonprofits was also in the vision of our community partners as they provide the administrative work. And I don't know if Phyllis is still on, but I also want to thank the city, because there's so many people out there, and the city created this platform for the citizens to use it. And so this really becomes about an authentic engagement in answering the questions. And I really like, you know, not only all the projects that the students did, but all of the ways in which we're talking about being engaged citizens, you know, which is a core value of our institution. So I just wanted to put a plug that this partnership wasn't intuitive in the sense that of how we work and how the city works and how nonprofits work, but it is needed. And we're the best place because of our grit at Cal State LA in making sure that the questions that are of interest to us on the east side and all of LA get answered in the way that only we can do it. And I'm so impressed and grateful to you faculty and students for the work that you did, but for the city and the vision of the city to create a platform for accessibility. And again, shout outs to both Preston and Dawn for the work that they did in supporting the faculty.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this concludes our event. So I'm very grateful that you guys stayed with us, and I'm very grateful for the support from the city and the community partners as well. And of course, my innovative faculty colleagues. I could not do this semester without you. And I want to acknowledge your support of me as a program manager, but also as a colleague and friend. I'm so grateful that you guys were able to be our inaugural faculty members. So I want us to stay collaborating with everybody. We have one last poll for you guys because we want to make sure that we get all this data and this information. But again, please stay in contact with us. Our information is on the NSS website. Contact Preston, contact our dean as well. Okay, we're just very grateful that we shared space today. So let me put up our last poll and then I will send us on our way. Okay, but thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Cupchoy, a lot. Thank you so much. All right, here's our poll. Thank you, Dean. Okay, so let's do the poll now, y'all. It's like 13 seconds in and only one person. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Preston. And we still have so many people with us still. I'm so grateful for that. Okay, let's see what's going on. Thank you for my students who shared space with me today. If this was face-to-face, we would be having some appetizers and socializing, but thank you for sharing virtual space with us as well. Okay, Dr. Hortua, how is our poll looking? Is it good? Thank you, Dr. Cardona. Okay.
It's looking great.
Yeah.
60 out of 70.
I think so. The things that we can do with Zoom, everybody. So, all right, thank you, everybody. Okay. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pamela Reagan, for showing up. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, Kendall, I see you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad our librarians are here from the college library. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Our event is over. Okay. So let's enjoy Bob Marley as on our way out. Thank you so much. Very much. Thank you, library, for showing up.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, Preston. Thank you.
Thanks to all the students that came in.
Thank you all, students.
Thank you for coming today. It was so nice to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nene.
Thank you, Rashid Scholars.
Yes, yes. Without that. Absolutely. Aaron was a rock star. Seriously.
It's hard to roll credits, but yeah.
And a letter of recommendation for them too, whatever else, you know. Thank you so much.
So you can't blame.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, friend. Thank you, Maribel.
You can't blame the youth. No, no, no. You can't
That was, thank you guys. I'm gonna stop recording now.